the summit.
9 a.m., June 27, 1998. A historic moment. Visiting U.S. President Bill Clinton and Chinese President Jiang Zemin shook hands in Beijing. This is the first visit of the incumbent U.S. President to China in almost 10 years. The world is watching. Foreign mass media like NBC, ABC, and CNN all kept a close eye on the Sino-U.S. summit meeting. President Clinton's appearance on TV was watched by many people across Beijing, as was his first appearance in Xi'an.
I hope high technology can be developed. In other areas, the two sides are complementary to each other and each can benefit. What China needs now is high technology.
Probably technology right now.
High technology?
Yeah.
Why?
Because technology is growing really fast in America, and it will really benefit us if we learn more from America, because right now we're the fastest developing country.
In Peking University, which is on President Clinton's schedule in Beijing, students are looking forward to his visit. They are especially interested in areas in which the two sides can cooperate.
The US dollar is usually a stable currency in the world. If the US and China join efforts in fighting the recent Asian financial crisis, there will be a successful outcome.
We think that they're on a good basis now. I mean, obviously there's some differences between the two countries, but I don't think there are major differences.
The 9-day visit of U.S. President Bill Clinton to China is the longest of its kind in the history of U.S. Expectations for this summit meeting are different among the local citizens, but most people believe that the
decided to televise it live. How do President Clinton's entourage feel the whole trip is going as a whole?
Well, they're very happy. They think they have received two very tangible gains that they weren't sure they were going to receive on the issue of human rights, the decision by the Chinese government to televise the news conference, and now this speech live. They think that will be an important historic watershed, a breakthrough in the situation as far as human rights in China is concerned. The other tangible result that they worked hard to achieve, it's largely symbolic, but something they really wanted, was an agreement with China to de-target nuclear missiles. This is something the United States and Russia agreed to in 1994. No longer would their intercontinental ballistic strategic nuclear force be aimed at each other's cities. The U.S. had wanted this very much with China, which has some 13 intercontinental ballistic missiles until now aimed at U.S. cities. Now that will be changed. While it's symbolic because the retargeting could occur within only a matter of a few minutes, the benefit is that if there were an accidental launch, if there were some mistake, the missile would be fired. It would not land on U.S. soil. Instead, it would land in the ocean, and the damage obviously would be a lot less. So symbolically, President Clinton worked hard. He sent his Deputy National Security Advisor, Jim Steinberg, to Beijing ahead of him. They negotiated this literally until almost the last minute. China had insisted that the U.S. agree to a no first strike use provision before it agreed to remove the targeting from the United States. The U.S. did not back away from its longstanding doctrine of not accepting a no first use because of the nuclear umbrella that it tries to provide its allies around the world. And in the end, on this particular issue, China gave and the U.S. got what it wanted. But politically, it's an important step for both countries.
Thanks, Wolf. Candy, if I can bring you back in. Now, Mr. Clinton faced very heavy criticism at home for making this trip at all, and especially for the welcoming ceremony at the edge of Tiananmen Square. How is the trip going down with Congress now it's in full flow?
I think probably the critics, at least that we've heard from, have said that they thought the rhetoric was very good, that the president made a very eloquent case for democracy during the Saturday joint news conference. But the proof, as they say, is in the pudding, and what the critics point out is this is still just rhetoric. The missile agreement that Wolf just referred to is largely symbolic. Other than that, there was not a lot of substance out of this meeting. It was good theater. It was a good free flow of exchange. It's certainly good that these things got on Chinese television, but if the president gets on his plane and leaves Friday out of Hong Kong and nothing changes in China, then the critics point out that this whole idea of constructive engagement, as the president calls this policy, as did President Bush, there's the president now, Fiona, as you see, walking in.
Okay, Candy, yes, Mr. Clinton is making his way now to the front of the hall at Beijing University. Mrs. Clinton has already taken her seat. We've seen her in the audience. He's about to make his speech to the students there. Let's have a listen in now. We're going to get simultaneous translation in Chinese, but we should be able to hear him fine. There's Mrs. Clinton and Chelsea next to her. It's a packed house. And we understand that he's to be introduced by the president of Beijing University, Chen Jie-or. Mr. Chen, I think, is about to start.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, faculty and students. We are about to begin to listen to the address by Mr. William Jefferson Clinton, President of the United States of America. On the podium, accompanying the Honorable President are Professor Ren Yansheng, Chairman of University Council of Beijing University, Professor Chen Jiaer, President of the University. Dr. Wei Yu, Vice Minister of Education of China, is accompanying the First Lady. Present today at this event are also major members of the delegation of President Clinton. Now I'd like to give the floor to President Chen Jiaer for some welcoming remarks. The Honorable President and the Mrs. Clinton. The distinguished guests, the faculty and students, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Today, we are very much honored by the presence of President and Mrs. Clinton. On behalf of all the faculty and the students of Beijing University, I wish to extend the warmest welcome to you. The faculty and students of the Beijing University have all along cared about the growth of China-US relations. We are delighted to note that following the successful visit to the United States by President Jiang Zemin last fall, now President Clinton is paying a successful return visit to China. We sincerely hope that China and the United States will work continuously to make greater contributions to the peace, stability, and prosperity in the world in the 21st century. Two months ago today, President Jiang Zemin of China personally came to Beijing University. And now, President and Mrs. Clinton and the entourage are here in our university, and the President is going to deliver an important address. We are very delighted to welcome you here. On 4th of May this year, our university celebrated the centenary of the founding of the university. Patriotism, progress, democracy, and science are the fine traditions of the Beijing University. While The vigorous and extensive international exchanges and cooperation are one of the sources of dynamism of Beijing University. Among the faculty and the students present today are scholars from the American Studies Center of our university and from the College of International Relations, as well as representatives of Chinese students from various departments and schools, as well as representatives of more than 2,000 foreign students coming from 70 countries, and also several hundred foreign professors and teachers working here. This reflects the diversity and openness of the culture of Beijing University. For a long time, the Beijing University has been committed to developing exchanges and cooperation with the United States. Up to now, we have already established intercollegiate relationships with Harvard, Stanford, Berkeley, altogether 32 American universities. And we have conducted very good exchanges and cooperation with many research institutes and major enterprise groups, including joint training of the students, exchange of scholars, and the establishment of labs, and the cooperation in the research, and the co-sponsoring of international seminars and conferences, and also the setting up of high-tech enterprises. 24 U.S. universities and 33 enterprises or other organizations sent delegations to the centenary celebration of our university. This actually epitomized the thriving development of the scientific, technological, cultural, educational exchanges between our two countries. I think the future of China-U.S. relations lies with the youth, while the future of the youth lies in education. I sincerely hope that the younger generation of our two countries will understand and respect each other more, so as to make concerted efforts for creating more splendid civilization of mankind and promoting sustained, stable, and sound growth of China-U.S. relations. Now, please allow me to introduce to you President Clinton. President Clinton was born in Hopetown, Arkansas, of the United States in 1946. He graduated from Georgetown University with the bachelor's degree of political science in 1968, and graduated from Yale University with the JD in 1973. And in the same year, he went to the University of Arkansas as professor. In November 1992, he was elected President of the United States of America and was re-elected in November 1996. The visit to China by President Clinton has made an important contribution to the growth of China-U.S. relations, which we highly appreciate. Now, let's welcome President Clinton. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, President Chen, Chairman Ren, Vice President Xia, Vice Minister Wei. We are delighted to be here today with a very large American delegation, including the First Lady and our daughter, who is a student at Stanford, one of the schools with which Beijing University has a relationship. We have 6 members of the United States Congress, the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Commerce, the Secretary of Agriculture, the Chairman of our Council of Economic Advisors, importance that the United States places on our relationship with China. I would like to begin by congratulating all of you, the students, the faculty, the administrators, on celebrating the centennial year of your university. Gangxi Beida. As I'm sure all of you know, this campus was once home to Yenching University, which was founded by American missionaries. Many of its wonderful buildings were designed by an American architect. Thousands of American students and professors have come here to study and teach. We feel a special kinship with you. I am, however, grateful that this day is different in one important respect from another important occasion 79 years ago. In June of 1919, the first president of Yenching University, John Leighton Stewart, was set to deliver the very first commencement address on these very grounds. At the appointed hour, he appeared, but no students appeared. They were all out leading the May 4th movement for China's political and cultural renewal. When I read this, I hoped that when I walked into the auditorium today, someone would be sitting here. And I thank you for being here very much. Over the last 100 years, this university has grown to more than 20,000 students. Your graduates are spread throughout China and around the world. You have built the largest university library in all of Asia. Last year, 20% of your graduates went abroad to study, including half of your math and science majors. And in this anniversary year, more than 1 million people in China, Asia, and beyond have logged on to your website. At the dawn of a new century, this university is leading China into the future. I come here today to talk to you, the next generation of China's leaders, about the critical importance to your future of building a strong partnership between China and the United States. The American people deeply admire China for its thousands of years of contributions to culture and religion, to philosophy and the arts, to science and technology. We remember well our strong partnership in World War II. Now we see China at a moment in history when your glorious past is matched by your present sweeping transformation and the even greater promise of your future. Just 3 decades ago, China was virtually shut off from the world. Now, China is a member of more than 1,000 international organizations, enterprises that affect everything from air travel to agricultural development. You have opened your nation to trade and investment on a large scale. Today, 40,000 young Chinese study in the United States, with hundreds of thousands more learning in Asia, Africa, Europe, and Latin America. Your social and economic transformation has been even more remarkable, moving from a closed, command economic system to a thriving, increasingly market-based and driven economy, generating 2 decades of unprecedented growth, giving people greater freedom to travel within and outside China, to vote in village elections, to own a home, choose a job, attend a better school. As a result, you have lifted literally hundreds of millions of people from poverty. Per capita income has more than doubled in the last decade. Most Chinese people are leading lives they could not have imagined just 20 years ago. Of course, these changes have also brought disruptions in settled patterns of life and work, and have imposed enormous strains on your environment. Once, every urban Chinese was guaranteed employment in a state enterprise. Now, you must compete in a job market. Once, the Chinese worker had only to meet the demands of a central planner in Beijing. Now, the global economy means all must match the quality and creativity of the rest of the world. For those who lack the right training and skills and support, this new world can be daunting. In the short term, good, hardworking people, some at least, will find themselves unemployed. And as all of you can see, there have been enormous environmental and economic and healthcare costs to the development pattern and the energy use pattern of the last 20 years, from air pollution to deforestation to acid rain and water shortage. In the face of these challenges, new systems of training and Social Security will have to be devised, and new environmental policies and technologies will have to be introduced with the goal of growing your economy while improving the environment. Everything I know about the intelligence, the ingenuity, the enterprise of the Chinese people, and everything I have heard these last few days in my discussions with President Zhang, Prime Minister Xu, and others, give me confidence that you will succeed. As you build a new China, America wants to build a new relationship with you. We want China to be successful, secure, and open, working with us for a more peaceful and prosperous world. I know there are those in China and the United States who question whether closer relations between our countries is a good thing. But everything all of us know about the way the world is changing and the challenges your generation will face tell us that our two nations will be far better off working together than apart. The late Deng Xiaoping counseled us to seek truth from facts. At the dawn of the new century, the facts are clear. The distance between our two nations, indeed between any nations, is shrinking. Where once an American clipper ship took months to cross from China to the United States, today technology has made us all virtual neighbors. From laptops to lasers, from microchips to megabytes. An information revolution is lighting the landscape of human knowledge, bringing us all closer together. Ideas, information, and money, bringing with them extraordinary opportunities to create wealth, to prevent and conquer disease, to foster greater understanding among peoples of different histories and different cultures. But we also know that this greater openness and faster change mean that problems which start beyond one nation's borders can quickly move inside them. The spread of wealth.
Well, our apologies for this. Obviously, we're getting technical difficulties from Beijing. We don't seem to be able to hear Mr. Clinton at the moment. We will, of course, try and get him back as soon as we possibly can. Oh, I think he's...
A future freer of nuclear weapons. On the Indian subcontinent, just as most of the rest of the world is moving away from nuclear danger, India and Pakistan risk sparking a new arms race. We are now pursuing a common strategy to move India and Pakistan away from further testing and toward a dialogue to resolve their differences. In the 21st century, your generation must face the challenge of stopping the spread of deadlier nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons. In the wrong hands or the wrong places, these weapons can threaten the peace of nations large and small. Increasingly, China and the United States agree on the importance of stopping proliferation. That is why we are beginning to act in concert to control the world's most dangerous weapons. In the 21st century, your generation will have to reverse the international tide of crime and drugs. Around the world, organized crime robs people of billions of dollars every year and undermines trust in government. America knows all about the devastation and despair that drugs can bring to schools and neighborhoods. With borders on more than a dozen countries, China has become a crossroad for smugglers of all kinds. Last year, President Zhang and I asked senior Chinese and American law enforcement officials to step up our cooperation against these
Our apologies again. We're again having technical difficulties hearing Mr. Clinton, but we do believe those technical difficulties are on the satellite from Beijing to here, so the people who are watching in China are getting to hear the whole of Mr. Clinton's speech.
At tomorrow's expense. China's remarkable growth in the last 2 decades has come with a toxic cost. Pollutants that foul the water you drink and the air you breathe. The cost is not only environmental, it is also serious in terms of the health consequences of your people and in terms of the drag on economic growth. Environmental problems are also increasingly global as well as national. For example, in the near future, if present energy use patterns persist, China will overtake the United States as the world's largest emitter of greenhouse gases, the gases which are the principal cause of global warming. If the nations of the world do not reduce the gases which are causing global warming, sometime in the next century, there is a serious risk of dramatic changes in climate, which will change the way we live and the way we work, which could literally bury some island nations under mountains of water and undermine the economic and social fabric of nations. We must work together. We Americans know from our own experience that it is possible to grow an economy while improving the environment. We must do that together for ourselves and for the world. Building on the work that our Vice President Al Gore has done previously with the Chinese government, President Zhang and I are working together on ways to bring American clean energy technology to help improve air quality and grow the Chinese economy at the same time. But I will say this again, this is not on my remarks. Your generation must do more about this. This is a huge challenge for you, for the American people, and for the future of the world. And it must be addressed at the university level, because political leaders will never be willing to adopt environmental measures if they believe it will lead to large-scale unemployment or more poverty. The evidence is clear that does not have to happen. You will actually have more rapid economic growth and better paying jobs, leading to higher levels of education and technology if we do this in the proper way. But you and the university communities in China, the United States, and throughout the world will have to lead the way. In the 21st century, your generation must also meet the challenge of an international financial system that has no respect for national borders. When stock markets fall in Hong Kong or Jakarta, the effects are no longer local. They are global. The vibrant growth of your own economy is tied closely, therefore, to the restoration of stability and growth in the Asia-Pacific region. China has steadfastly shouldered its responsibilities to the region and the world in this latest financial crisis. helping to prevent another cycle of dangerous devaluations. We must continue to work together to counter this threat to the global financial system and to the growth and prosperity which should be embracing all of this region. In the 21st century, your generation will have a remarkable opportunity to bring together the talents of our scientists, doctors, engineers into a shared quest for progress. Already, the breakthroughs we have achieved in our areas of joint cooperation, in challenges from dealing with spina bifida to dealing with extreme weather conditions and earthquakes, have proved what we can do together to change the lives of millions of people in China, in the United States, and around the world. Expanding our cooperation in science and technology can be one of our greatest gifts to the future. In each of these vital areas that I have mentioned, we can clearly accomplish so much more by walking together rather than standing apart. That is why we should work to see that the productive relationship we now enjoy blossoms into a fuller partnership in the new century. If that is to happen, it is very important that we understand each other better, that we understand both our common interest and our shared aspirations and our honest differences. I believe the kind of open, direct exchange that President Zhang and I had on Saturday at our press conference, which I know many of you watched on television, can both clarify and narrow our differences. And more important, by allowing people to understand and debate and discuss these things, can give a greater sense of confidence to our people that we can make a better future. From the windows of the White House, where I live in Washington, D.C., the monument to our first president, George Washington, dominates the skyline. It is a very tall obelisk. But very near this large monument, there is a small stone which contains these words. The United States neither established titles of nobility and royalty, nor created a hereditary system. State affairs are put to the vote of public opinion. This created a new political situation, unprecedented from ancient times to the present. How wonderful it is. Those words were not written by an American. They were written by Xu Jiyu, governor of Fujian province, inscribed as a gift from the government of China to our nation in 1853. I am very grateful for that gift from China. It goes to the heart of who we are as a people. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The freedom to debate, to dissent, to associate, to worship without interference from the state. These are the ideals that were at the core of our founding over 220 years ago. These are the ideas that led us across our continent and onto the world stage. These are the ideals that Americans cherish today. As I said in my press conference with President Zhang, we have an ongoing quest ourselves to live up to those ideals. The people who framed our Constitution understood that we would never achieve perfection. They said that the mission of America would always be to form a more perfect union. In other words, that we would never be perfect, but we had to keep trying to do better. The darkest moments in our history have come when we abandoned the effort to do better, when we denied freedom to our people because of their race or their religion, because they were new immigrants or because they held unpopular opinions. The best moments in our history have come when we protected the freedom of people who held unpopular opinions, or extended rights enjoyed by the many to the few who had previously been denied them, making therefore the promises of our Declaration of Independence and Constitution more than faded words on old parchment. Today we do not seek to impose our vision on others, but we are convinced that certain rights are universal. Not American rights or European rights or rights for developed nations, but the birthrights of people everywhere, now enshrined in the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights. The right to be treated with dignity, the right to express one's opinions, to choose one's own leaders, to associate freely with others, and to worship or not freely, however one chooses. In the last letter of his life, the author of our Declaration of Independence and our third president, Thomas Jefferson, said then that all eyes are opening to the rights of man. I believe that in this time, at long last, 172 years after Jefferson wrote those words, all eyes are opening to the rights of men and women everywhere. Over the past 2 decades, a rising tide of freedom has lifted the lives of millions around the world, sweeping away failed dictatorial systems in the former Soviet Union throughout Central Europe, ending a vicious cycle of military coups and civil wars in Latin America, giving more people in Africa the chance to make the most of their hard-won independence. And from the Philippines to South Korea, from Thailand to Mongolia, freedom has reached Asia's shores, powering a surge of growth and productivity. Economic security also can be an essential element of freedom. It is recognized in the United Nations Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. In China, you have made extraordinary strides in nurturing that liberty and spreading freedom from want to be a source of strength to your people. Incomes are up, poverty is down. People do have more choices of jobs and the ability to travel, the ability to make a better life. But true freedom includes more than economic freedom. In America, we believe it is a concept which is indivisible. Over the past 4 days, I have seen freedom in many manifestations in China. I have seen the fresh shoots of democracy growing in the villages of your heartland. I have visited a village that chose its own leaders in free elections. I have also seen the cell phones, the video players, the fax machines, carrying ideas, information, and images from all over the world. I have heard people speak their minds, and I have joined people in prayer in the faith of my own choosing. In all these ways, I felt a steady breeze of freedom. The question is, where do we go from here? How do we work together to be on the right side of history together? More than 50 years ago, Husserl, one of your great political thinkers, and a teacher at this university, said these words. Now, some people say to me, you must sacrifice your individual freedom so that the nation may be free. But I reply, the struggle for individual freedom is the struggle for the nation's freedom. The struggle for your own character is the struggle for the nation's character. We Americans believe Husserl was right. We believe, and our experience demonstrates, that freedom strengthens stability and helps nations to change. One of our founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin, once said, "Our critics are our friends, for they show us our faults." Now, if that is true, there are many days in the United States when the president has more friends than anyone else in America. But it is so. In the world we live in, this global information age, constant improvement and change is necessary to economic opportunity and to national strength. Therefore, for the freest possible flow of information, ideas, and opinions, and a greater respect for divergent political and religious convictions, will actually breed strength and stability going forward. It is therefore profoundly in your interest and the world that young Chinese minds be free to reach the fullness of their potential. That is the message of our time and the mandate of the new century and the new millennium. I hope China will more fully embrace this mandate. For all the grandeur of your history, I believe your greatest days are still ahead. Against great odds in the 20th century, China has not only survived, it is moving forward dramatically. Other ancient cultures failed because they failed to change. China has constantly proven the capacity to change and grow. Now you must reimagine China again for a new century. And your generation must be at the heart of China's regeneration. The new century is upon us. All our sights are turned toward the future. Now your country has known more millennia than the United States has known centuries. Today, however, China is as young as any nation on earth. This new century, proud of your ancient greatness, proud of what you are doing, prouder still of the tomorrows to come. It can be a time when the world again looks to China for the vigor of its culture, the freshness of its thinking, the elevation of human dignity that is apparent in its works. It can be a time when the oldest of nations helps to make a new world. The United States wants to work with you to make that time a reality. Thank you very much. Thank you.
How many minutes?
As long as you want to say?
I think about 20 to 30 minutes. It's okay?
Yeah.
I wish to thank you, Mr. President. Now, the faculty and the students of Beijing University are welcome to raise